Hello and welcome to the Factor 50 podcast, the podcast where comedians spill the tea on all of their holiday misadventures. Joining us on our maiden voyage today is the fabulous Daisy Earl. Hello, Daisy.
Hello, Tegan. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here for the debut.
I feel very privileged to be the debut,
Here she is, the opening act.
Yeah. I am good, Tegan. I'm excited to talk about holidays. I haven't been on holiday for a really long time. I mean, I know that is very much a first world problem.
The violins are out.
Yeah, the world's teeny tiniest violin. But because it's been COVID and stuff, I haven't been away since 2019, I don't think.
God, really? I see. I'm an international jet setter, so I can't relate. I was even traveling in 2020. I was that bitch in October when it was like briefly allowed.
You are patient zero.
I probably contributed to most of the spread of it. Sorry, guys.
My best holiday, I think, was my honeymoon.
Oh.
But to be clear, my honeymoon was dreadful. Everything went wrong, but I think it was a really good sign for marriage that we had a really lovely time, despite the fact that our honeymoon was not, in the traditional sense, going well. Because we went to Corfu in May of 2019. Now, what I didn't know about Corfu, because Corfu is obviously like this beautiful Greek island. It's just lovely. It's, beautiful beaches. And I was really excited to live my best life in Corfu. What I didn't know about May in Corfu was the reason that it was slightly cheaper than other months was that it can rain for a week. And basically, the whole week we were there, it rained. So that was not ideal. One day it didn't. Because I'm half Scottish, I feel that burning yourself on holiday is a sign of class and sophistication, and that you need to get that, sweet glow of third degree burns. So on the one day it was sunny, I was like, well, do you know what? I did some real tourist math. So I was like, look, if I'm only going to get a day of sunshine, I'm not going to put on sun cream because it's only a day as opposed to the 7 days, which the sun was not aware of this level of stupidity. So I just really, really burned my skin. And I would not recommend that. I am now a fully paid up member of the Wear Sun Cream and Don't Be an Idiot Brigade.
We're all about the Factor 50 on the Factor 50 podcast, mate.
I mean,
all about it.
I feel you're spreading awareness, which is great.
I am. As a ginger, I feel it's important because, it's a struggle out here. My mum grew up in Essex in the 70s, in the days when they would just put cooking oil on you to cook you in the sun, and then you'd be really, really red and blistering like a lobster. And they're like, oh, that's going to be gorgeous when it goes brown.
Yeah. And we also, on that holiday, there was a German couple who became our nemesis, because everything we did or went to, they seemed to get there first. Do you know what I mean? It was just, they were just everywhere, and they were super unfriendly, and I did not enjoy them as a couple. Don't know their names because I wouldn't talk to them,
Of course not. The rivals.
The German rivals. I just stare at as they're drinking my cocktails, living my life.
What is a holiday without German rivals, truly? Oh dear.
And then I got on that holiday, to try and sort of bring things up a bit, I got a hot stone massage, which I thought would be amazing, but I honestly could not have hated more. This lady, bless her, she was so sweet, but these they put a towel on your back and then they put these stones on, but it was like hot lava rocks. It was too hot. And I hated it. But we then went, because our honeymoon in Corfu was quite a nightmare, we then went to the Isle of Skye for a sort of mini moon.
Oh, lovely.
And that was amazing. We met the grumpiest B&B owner in the universe.
What?
And oh my God, Tegan, I loved her so much. So she did not want to own a B&B. It was not for
Great
her.
start. Great
No.
start.
I think that her, maybe she'd inherited it and resented it every breathing minute of her life since. So when we arrived at 2:30, and we managed to get like a last minute restaurant booking or something. So when we got to the front door, she said, well, I'm afraid you won't be able to drop off your bags until 3:00 when check-in is open. And I said, well, even if we don't go into the room, could we just leave our bags in the hallway? No, absolutely out of the question. You may return to my front door at 3:00 where I will assist you. Thank you. Good day. And then she shut the door like in our faces. So we just awkwardly sat in the car like for half an hour, like she'll let us in eventually. And then when we come in, she's furious that we're there, do you mean just in her airspace? And she was like, right, well, now you've arrived at an appropriate hour, I will show you to your rooms. And then she showed us to the room, and it was like round the back of this building, and it was a nice room, but she had personally stuck notes all over the room and the hallway. So these little like post-it notes that she'd put on the wall with sellotape. So it would have been a nice room, except she had graffitied like all over it, turn off the light switch, use the short flush, don't slam the doors, like just all these little manic notes. She hated being a B&B owner, and I'll be honest, I find overly chippy, like happy customer service, chirpy customer service, a little bit annoying. And someone who just really honestly could not care less, doesn't want to be there, I've got a certain amount
Keep
of time.
It real. Yeah, I love that. I'd rather have that. I actually find bad customer service hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, it's there for the good comedy vibe. Wow, she sounds like a really like passag, like uni housemate.
Yes.
You know, with the post-it notes. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's mental. It is a pure hilarity when stuff like that happens. Like I went to Bulgaria on like a terribly cheap ski holiday, like just before lockdown as well, and the Bulgarian customer service just does not exist. And we arrived at the hotel, and like because it was like after dinner time, and like we had dinner included in the package, and they were like, oh, you've missed dinner, but like we've got these for you. And they just presented us with these lasagnas, and we were like, what? And all my friends are vegetarian. They were like, sorry, like we're vegetarians, like we can't eat this. And they were like, well, you should have made us aware that you were vegetarian. We're like, we were not aware we would be presented with lasagna at check-in. Do you know what I mean? Like this whole like drama over this lasagna. Like, it was just hilarious. It wouldn't happen anywhere else. So yeah, I agree. Bad customer service does in parts make a holiday what it is. That's a solid choice for a good holiday, but what's the worst? Let's hear it. Let's hear the chaos. Let's unpack the trauma.
It's a bit of a toss-up for me because it wasn't really a holiday, but I did for a time. I worked for about 3 months in Alcudia, which is in Mallorca, and I started off as like a bar rep, you know, where you like give out shots and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then someone, like the guy that worked in the bar as the DJ, had a bit of a tantrum one night and left. And because I was a geek at school, I had done like lighting and like sound for theatre. So
of course you had. Yeah. You were that kid.
Of course I was. So I was like, oh, well, I couldn't mix music, but I could change songs. Do you mean? Because at that point they were still like, it was just CDs, like literally.
Those are the days. Now that's what I call music. 28. Yeah.
But the worst part of it was that there was a wet t-shirt competition each week that this bar was sort of famous for, that the DJ normally kind of hosted. And I just remember getting in trouble one night because I was so drunk. Because I drank a lot back then. I mean, a lot of my stories will have a theme. And I was so drunk, and I was sort of hosting this wet t-shirt, but kind of heckling the women, like, but it like with positive, like I felt quite feminist vibes. I was like, you don't have to do this. The bottle of champagne isn't real champagne. You could get down if you want to. Like,
wow, the suffragettes are watching from heaven, like cheering you on, doing the Lord's work.
Thank you. But like when I say, because if you think of a wet t-shirt competition, I think you imagine like a wet t-shirt competition from an American film, whereas in reality it was girls, like British girls, who were clearly like 16 because they were clearly underage, because they all left at around like 11:30, which you just know is like a parent curfew. Like they must be on holiday.
Oh my God. Yeah. Mum and dad are waiting in the lobby.
And then, but that was it was a great kind of holiday in the longer term sense, like a 3-month holiday. But yeah, it was good fun, because I loved the girls that I stayed with out there who worked in the bar. They were just amazing. I mean, they were such nice girls, but also quite wild. Like, I remember this other girl stole my money, so the girl that I lived with set fire to her shoes. She set fire to her shoes and then threw them in the canal. And because I'm such a baby and I hate confrontation, that I've never been more impressed with anything. I was like, oh my God, you can do that? That's
pretty fucking badass, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
God. No fuck with her.
So that was good. That was kind of good and bad, I think. But the worst holiday for me was probably, so when I was at uni, I went to Nevada, and I was doing this, like, I was a proper, like, you know, like those, I don't know what you call them, people that go on gap years, wankers, I'm guessing.
You were a gap year wanker. You were that bitch. You were God. Yeah, been traveling. I've got myself some floaty trousers. You were that girl.
When I look back, I was awful. I have a travel diary from when I was in Morocco that says this sentence: the tour guide told us not to give the beggar children, that's what I called them, Tegan, the beggar children. The tour guide told us not to give the beggar children money because it only encourages them, from poverty? Do you know what I mean? It only encourages them.
Encourage them to have a good life. How dare they? How dare they aspire to have wealth?
Wealth from ridiculous tourists. So I said, so it only encourages them. So instead, I just give them croissants and orange juice.
Well, kids, essential Waitrose will help you.
Do you know what I mean? 22-year-old me was an absolute well-meaning monster.
Oh, and God bless you. White saviour.
So I was the worst. I really was the worst. I mean, I was such a do-gooder when I was young. I mean, slightly off topic, but I once guided what I thought was someone who was blind around a supermarket, only to find out at the end that they could see.
Wait. What? Hang on. How did this happen? How did they not, like...
Right, so I was volunteering for RNIB in Loughborough, where I went to uni. And it was my first day volunteering. And what I was doing, you were supposed to help the young people, like, go around the shop, like go around Tesco. Now, what I didn't realise at the time is that it's quite rare that someone is actually completely blind. Some people might be partially sighted, so they might struggle to read text, but they've got, say, peripheral vision. I had no idea at the time, so I just assumed that everyone was completely blind. So this boy, who was just this really nice teenager, I gave him this, like, audio tour of Tesco. So I told him everything. I was like, we're going, because again, I'd never guided someone before. I had no idea that you didn't have to tell them in like painful detail everything you were seeing. So I was like,
oh no, but you did.
I was literally like, we're going down the fruit and veg aisle. I've gone past the apples. There's some oranges. We're past the bananas now. And this guy was so polite. And then at the very end, if you had time left, you were like allowed to get something like for yourself, like you could do your own shopping. So we had got his stuff. So I went to get salad cream and I was like, I think I'll get this one. It's only own brand, but probably is good. And he went, I wouldn't get that. It looks like snot. And I was like, oh my God. I said,
like, you can see.
I said, can you see? And he went, yes. And I find you quite patronising.
Oh no.
Which I thought was fair enough, though, because I didn't even ask him before I gave him my order.
And there you were describing the apples and oranges to him. And he was like, I just want to get my cream and fuck off. Like, I didn't ask for this magical mystery door of Tesco.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was very much the vibe early 20s me had. So I went to Nevada again to volunteer because I was saving the world, Tegan. I was very busy.
Of course you were. Of course you were.
I met my best friend there, though. So my friend who I met at university, Amy, I love like she's family, and I just feel like this holiday was so bonding, and if you weren't there you wouldn't get it. Like, we've been in Nam together. Do you know what I mean? Because it was
we've been through this together. Yeah. The trauma brings you together. Because
we were so basically it was the Blackrock Desert in Nevada, and our job was, we had like, it was like a bit like being in a chain gang because
wait, what?
So our job was to dig up sagebush and get rid of rocks, and it was a preservation project. So the idea was that you were preserving like Native American artifacts by digging trails so that the Americans that came to use that, like riding their horses, didn't disturb all of the desert. But honestly, it was such a scam. Like, this company getting volunteers to dig trail, I was like,
no,
this is not a real project. And the guy that was in charge of us, you used to get like, so it was the desert, so it was boiling hot, and you had like these heavy trousers, like full sleeve top, like protective gloves, goggles, hard hat, worker boots, and then you had to dig up sagebush, and it was boiling hot. I remember one day that I was trying to get rid of this boulder that I thought was from the surface quite small, but underneath it was this massive rock. I was listening to Eddie Izzard on my headphones and just laughing because it was so funny. I was just laughing like, maniacally. And then apparently my friend told me the Americans, when they were walking back down the hill, were like, oh my God, that British girl, she's totally lost it. Look at her. Like,
the desert heat had got to you.
But it was really hard work. So I did actually escape, and I didn't do as many days in the desert as I was supposed to.
Good.
But I wasn't very fit. I mean, I remember there was this Irish guy there who was lovely. But when I said I wasn't doing the final tour, he was like, oh, that's such a shame. We're really going to miss you. And I went, oh, yeah. And I'm sorry that I'm leaving you guys with more work. And he went, oh, my God. He went, you're not. You're useless.
Well, honesty is the best policy, babes.
Fun thing on that trip, though, was that you had to dig a hole. If you went to the toilet, you basically just did it out in the desert. There were no toilet facilities.
No, so thank you.
No, so you had like this biodegradable like toilet paper, and you just had to go dig a hole, and then. But it was actually quite liberating, if I'm honest. After a while, no dignity. You just thought, well, this is how we're doing it now.
No dignity, just vibes.
Yeah.
Love that.
And there were no shower facilities.
I mean, no, in the desert, like what? You're going to be sweating. What did you do?
Yeah, and it was an 8-day tour. It was just baby wipes. You smelt. By the end of it,
it's not good for the planet, And then
well, we took them with us, but you also had, when you were in the desert, because it was so hot, we had this Gatorade powder that you put in bottles with water like you would squash, but because it was so hot, it was like having sweet tea. It wasn't.
Oh no.
So yeah, but I mean, I was only there in total for about 12 days because I left.
Yeah, good. You made the right call. You were like, peace. Good luck to you all. Respect it. Respect the journey, but it's just not me. You're like Gemma Collins. She was like, I gotta go. What is it she says? She's like, I can't stay here. I can't stay here any longer.
I know.
That was good. I love you, but I can't stay here any longer.
I ain't staying here. Sorry. I love you, but I ain't staying.
But it was a nice holiday because that time in history, people didn't have smartphones and Facebook had only just begun. So everyone wasn't recording everything.
Yeah, you weren't just doing it for the gram. That's wholesome.
Yeah. It was nice, yeah. And you could also do things like shit in a hole and not be worried someone would take a photo of it.
Oh, God, so true. Nowadays, fucking hell, you wouldn't be safe. No one would be safe. That would be on every story. There'd be like TikToks of people shitting in the desert.
That's the thing. Young people now, see, like when we're old, the things that we'll be able to say, like, do you know what? We were wild because no one was recording us.
It wasn't all content. Yeah. Wow. And that does sound like a real swizz, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I was tricked for sure. I paid to go on that holiday. That's what always gets me. I paid them.
These volunteer things are just pure scams because you pay to do them and then you're not even helping anyone, and it's just voluntourism.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, I was the target market for voluntourism. I have learned since that actually, you know, untrained, unqualified 22-year-olds going to a place
no one needs that.
4 weeks makes really little impact.
You get to feel good about yourself, and that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you've shut in a hole. Oh dear. Yeah, and that does sound pretty bad. So yeah, fair enough. That's definitely a strong contender for worst holiday ever. Cool. Well, the final question is, what would be your kind of ideal or dream holiday? If you could go anywhere with anyone, dead or alive, where would you go? Where would you be transported to?
That is a really good question. Now, because I am, although I sound English, in my heart and soul, I am Scottish. I'm not a big one for dreaming.
That's a waste of time for suckers. Okay.
I have a friend who plays this game called Barbie Dream House, where you basically go on Zoopla and you look at houses you can't afford. When I look on Zoopla for houses, I only look at like flats that are strictly within my 1 day potential budget. Like, I'm not a dreamer. So
very realistic. Okay.
I always find these questions tricky, but I think where I would go would be Chicago or New York. And I would really like to go to, I have this image in my mind, and maybe it's not true, but you know that image of like American comedy clubs with and even if I wasn't performing in one, just to be in one with, with the like candles on the tables. Ooh, and the
very Seinfeld, with the stage,
little stage with the red curtains, and I just to go to like the original version of like the Comedy Store, say, or like to go to the just go to America, go to where all the kind of greats played and all those kind of places. Being in a proper American comedy club, I would love, because also I think American audiences are ace, do you mean? Because they're so loud, so they would be great.
So up for it all the time.
And it's just how I always imagine doing comedy. And then when you're like doing a gig on a Saturday night in Bolton where some man is just shouting over you.
You're like, take me to New York. I belong on Broadway, baby.
Exactly. So that's where I'd like to go. And my lovely husband, I'm sure he would. That's who I would take with me, obviously.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
And I'm sure he'd behind. Find nice things.
Amuse himself.
Things to do as well. I mean, bless my husband. I think anyone, and I'm sure your partner will relate to this, anyone who goes out with a comedian, a lot of your life becomes watching them at gigs.
Yeah, and it's not even like they're coming to like the good ones. Like, my boyfriend never comes to gigs anymore because he came to like the first few when I moved up here. I didn't know anyone. And then, they were just like, I don't want to see your set ever again. So I've seen it so many times, burned into his eardrums. So, I relate. And also, he's like cripplingly shy, so he doesn't like going to comedy nights because he's scared that the MC will speak to him. He's like, I just want to hide. God love him. So yeah, I respect that. Yeah, I mean that's good, because in like Chicago and New York, there'd be plenty for him to do to amuse himself, and then you can like link up afterwards and like share your stories. You can go and have a deep dish pizza.
Oh no, I mean I would make him come with me though, because I really need my husband to come to gigs with me, because I'm such a needy human being. So if I have a bad gig, I need him with me, because I need him to tell me that it wasn't my fault. That it was,
you need backup. Yeah.
Or like I don't know. Or even if I have a good gig, it's just someone to witness it, because I always forget to record. So
does he come with you then? Does he often come with you?
Yeah, he does, only because he wouldn't, because I gig almost every weekend now. If he didn't come with me, he wouldn't
you wouldn't have any time
see me.
This is your dates now. Come and sit in this green room. There might be some Kinder Buenos or something. Lovely. Well, I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you.
All right, ready. I'll try. I talk too much, so I'm going to answer them quickly. I'm ready.
Okay. Would you cruise?
No.
No, never.
I would. Okay, so I'm very motivated by money. If I was paid to go on a cruise, to perform on a cruise, I would go. But I wouldn't go on a cruise because I'm Scottish and they seem expensive. And that is the whole answer. I'm not a dreamer, Tegan. If I won the lottery,
I know my limits.
But I know I'm never going to afford it. So that will be my advice to anyone thinking of holidays. Don't dream too big. Do we?
Be realistic. Stay within your budget. Yeah. Don't do anything YOLO. Basically, that's
exactly. If you can afford to just go camping, go camping. But don't think about cruising, because suddenly camping feels rubbish.
Cruising is just far too lofty. Okay, unless it was for work. But I've heard that doing like comedy on a cruise ship is always like soul destroying. So
I have heard that, but I would just to do it. I would do it
for the fee and for the stories. So worth it. Okay, but as a holiday, no. Okay, that's fine. Favorite motorway services?
T-Bay, but that's everyone's.
Boom. It's easy. Right? Yeah, true. That is everyone's.
T-Bay's the dream. I mean, I think about T-Bay when I'm not there. I would go on a trip just to T-Bay. T-Bay is a ridiculous service station. For those who haven't been, you've got a duck pond.
It's a holiday in itself. It's a destination in its own right.
It is. I mean, it should be on TripAdvisor. I love T-Bay services. And on the way down from Scotland, on the other side, going north, going south, is Killington Lake. Have you been there?
No, I have. I've went to T-Bay northbound and southbound. Northbound, I would say, is better just because it has the duck pond. But I haven't been to Killington Lake. What's this about?
Killington Lake is a little bit further down from T-Bay. Because I agree, southbound T-Bay I think is disappointing because of the lack of duck pond. But Killington Lakes, you've got the service station is on a hill that overlooks this really lovely lake, but it literally feels like it's weird because you've come off this horrible motorway and then suddenly you're looking at this beautiful. So yeah, highly recommend Killington Lake services.
Love
it's
that.
funny because you travel a lot in comedy within the UK. This kind of question I'm oddly feel like an expert in.
That's the thing. This is why I was like, well, I need to have this in the podcast because every comedian will have a favourite motorway services. And if they haven't been to T-Bay yet, I mean, it will always. You're right. It will always be T-Bay / Gloucester because I think they're the same.
Oh yeah, Gloucester's fancy. Yeah,
I haven't been to the Gloucester one, but I imagine it's the same. Farm shop, duck pond. Shop selling ridiculous clothing from Cornish brands called like Seafold. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what? We actually finessed it on the way back from Scotland last weekend because we stopped in at T-Bay for a roast dinner.
Wow. That is the dream.
It's so good. It's just so good. I made an Instagram reels about it because
you did. That's
I did. And I put it to I'm So Fancy by Charlie XCX and Iggy Azalea.
Of course
I'm so fat because it is fancy.
It is fancy.
Oh, well, anyway, this has been a bloody delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for christening this with me.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, it's been great. You're a podcast dream.
Because you're nice, Tegan, you give me a false sense of security. So I tell you stories on a podcast like about the time I shat in a hole.